realm of experience, or the subtle realm, just how to conceptualize it. I think one way of doing it is like the Hindus do in some traditions, and the Buddhists and many do. They differentiate between the waking state, which we are in right now, and then we have the subtle state, which is analogous to the dream state, which is subtle. You can see that we have a subtle body there, or we can see it like that, at least astral body, etheric body, or whatever you want to call it, in which we can travel, we can do things that we can't do in the waking state, or the gross realm, that they also call it, the physical realm. And then they also speak about causal realm, which is associated with a deep dreamless sleep, in which we are, there's nothing there basically. So there's no real phenomena like in the physical state, the physical world. We have all kinds of physical phenomena. In the dream state, we have other kinds of phenomena similar to the waking state, but still different. And in the deep sleep state, or the causal realm, we yet another experience, which Ramana Maharishi used to call the realizing or seeing your. There's only he actually said that there's nothing everything that's real is in the deep dreamless sleep. So nothing that isn't there isn't really real. So there's the whole subtle state, basically. The dream state isn't real, according to him. And I think most people would agree that the dream state is, we say that it's just a dream. But he maintains that is true also for the physical state, or the gross waking state. And in the deep dreamless sleep, it's called the causal state, because it's causal, as it's the first state, sort of. So everything flows from that state, in which only our true self, or the big self, is present, and nothing else is there. It's just void or emptiness, or the true self, and no phenomena. So in the in the waking state, the physical state, the gross state, we can still experience subtle energies, or the subtle state, as well as the deep dreamless state, because all of them are actually always already present in a way. In the waking state, if we have, for example, a fantasy about something, that is basically like a dream. And what we do during the day is oftentimes dream. We fantasize about things. Oftentimes we're not even conscious of it, or we mind wander, or we fantasize, or we think about things that aren't there, things that aren't in the actual physical reality. So those are sort of subtle, not energies, but subtle experiences, subtle phenomena in the waking state. Then we also have these other types of what many would call, spiritual stuff, spiritual phenomena within the waking state. That could be angels and demons. It could be thinking about the other side, getting connection with the, dead relatives, or visions. Those kinds of things. And also energies. So we have the physical energies in the waking state, but we also have non-physical energies, and those are the ones that the spiritual traditions speak about as, for example, what's called chi, prana, kundalini. I think those are it. Maybe there's a few more. But those kinds of energies are called subtle because they are subtle in that we cannot measure them. We can't find a dream. We can't find a ghost. We can't find we can't measure it. it's the whole realm of the subtle realm, basically, which to many are what spirituality is, revolves around. It is not what the mystical tradition speaks about as the final frontier of what is entailed in awakening, and the sort of the point, if there's a point to anything, but waking up from illusion, waking up from Maya, samsara, the simulation, whatever you want to call it, the identification with the narrative self. The identification with the narrative self is also like a dream, or is dream-like. That is why they are calling it a waking dream. So the waking state is also like a dream, and hence we can that is why we speak about waking up from it. Just as you can become lucid in a dream at night, you can become lucid, or you can wake up within the waking state and realize that it's somewhat like a dream, or at least that identification or your beliefs about basically everything were just mind stuff, imaginations. Maybe we could call it a phenomena, somewhat subtle phenomena. It's not totally easy to categorize everything perfectly, or at least I'm not able to at this moment. But these energies, so there's a long prelude to these energies. I put up the picture of Shiva and Shakti, which are, we could also say, a part of in order to categorize as a part of the subtle state, subtle realm. They are, manifestations, gods, all these gods and beings, angels, and as I said, are also a part of the subtle realm, and they are also associated to a large extent with these subtle energies. And these subtle energies, like chi, prana, kundalini, we are able to feel them or experience them in the waking state right now. But it isn't that we can just choose to do that. For some people, for children, for example, they often tend to experience subtle phenomena because, there are different ways of explaining why, but they are more open, we could say. If we measure brainwave activity, I believe there's more of this theta brainwave activity, which we have, which is prevalent within dreams at night, within the dream state. And if you train your mind, you train your brain with meditation or different types of spiritual practices, or just being a child who have a propensity to experience those things, you will experience more of them. So that's one of the that's one of the benefits, if you want to call it benefit, from meditation, from spiritual practice. So for many people who walk the spiritual path, who are interested in either awakening or just are interested in the subtle phenomena, will experience that sooner or later to different degrees. For some people, it's just those noticing those energies. There's this whole, we can do Kundalini yoga, which is aimed at basically raising your vibration, or raising your Kundalini energy. I think a lot of spiritual teachers tend to, at least some that I've heard or listened to, tend not to think that that is a great idea to shoot for raising the Kundalini in itself. I'm not sure. I think it's an individual thing, but there's definitely true that some people who go through these spiritual awakenings or opening up, whatever we want to call it, they do experience, shows a bad effects from awakening that those subtle energies within themselves. It can be overwhelming, and yeah, some are even knocked out. They can be bedridden for days or weeks or months even. There, yeah. So there's some. I wouldn't say, yeah. Maybe you, yeah. It's up to anyone what you want to do, but yeah, and something to be observant of, and you might want to, if there's too much of it or noticing that, maybe cut down on it if you want to remain functional. That is, if you just want to blow through it, yeah. Usually it seems to gather itself over time, but being dysfunctional because of it for a long time, yeah, if you have chores and if you have responsibilities, that's not necessarily a good thing, I think, at least. So, um, but accessing it in a non, detrimental effect way can be really interesting. It can be interesting in your daily life, doing practices. I think doing relational practices, at least for me, have been a large part into this. I would also say, not to recommend it or anything, but psychedelics also, yeah, heavily change your, brain chemistry and brainwave activity. So you will get more of these, yeah, subtle experiences. You will feel more, or the probability of experiencing these subtle energy will increase, yeah, tenfold, 20-fold, uh, if you do that, for sure. That's again really, yeah, it's going on the freeway in high speed. So it's much more dangerous than sitting just meditating. But it can be helpful for people. We see that in psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, and we just hear it anecdotally from people who have used psychedelics in a wholesome way, maybe we could say. It has definitely healing capabilities, and if there's a good setting, as they say, it can be helpful. And yeah, it was for me too. Then, as I said, in relational practices, I think, and just meditation too, it's just different for different people, whatever it is that helps us get in touch with these subtle energies. And I mean, to me, it was never a goal of such. It's, I've read about it. You hear about this Kundalini, you hear about energies, you hear, yeah, transmissions, basically. People giving transmissions, energy transmissions to, spirit, Shaktipat. That's a big thing in some traditions, where the teacher sort of gives the student a transmission again of a sort of spiritual energy that is, yeah, conceptualized as being a part of the subtle realm, a, a, which can be really helpful. And it's again for me too. So I'm speaking from my own experience. There are people doing that as spiritual teachers, offering Shaktipat transmissions or different types of transmissions, and yeah, just being in the presence of enlightened beings. They often emit a sort of, we could call it presence, but we could also call it, yeah, a transmission. They're transmitting their state, just as everyone is always, in a way, transmitting their state, their state of being, which can be helpful or not helpful. But being in the presence of some spiritual teachers definitely can be helpful. It is not necessarily, the way to awakening to just do that and sit in the presence of teachers, but yeah, it's been tried and tested for hundreds and thousands of years, and there's a reason why people want to hang out, people who are awakened and who have that kind of transmission. So I would say that, yeah, that's one way of getting into the subtle realm, more of an awake state through being in the presence of teachers. But then also, I think it's really another easy way, or not easy, but a way that may work for some people is to getting into relational practices, relational meditation, which can be a lot of things. It could be, for example, eye gazing. It could be, doing speaking from the heart. Yeah, the thing that I've done a lot is called circling, and it's a sort of relational meditation. You can do practices just being with each other in openness, in honesty, in love, and doing that over time can also help you feel into the the subtle realm, and you can start noticing these subtle energies within yourself and between. I'm not sure exactly why it happens a lot between human beings as a part. I mean, yeah, that may be just me, but I've noticed a lot in those kinds of circumstances. It becomes really intense, of course, also when you do it like I did for days on end, which many who are into circling and those kinds of practices do it. But you can also just do it for 30 minutes or 45 an hour with someone. You can do it online even. And again, it's not that it happens for everyone. Definitely not. It's just one way of possible access. I think it's highly individual, and it's everything from biology, personality, karma, whatever you want to think is the ground for why you are like you are and what happens in your life. So it's there's no cut and dry for anything, basically. For definitely not for awakening, and not awakening subtle energies either. But there's also the most simple and straightforward way, of course, which is meditation. When we do meditation, we can start experiencing subtle energies too. For me, I started noticing, pretty basic, just very um, small sensations going up my spine. First, I thought that it was my own imagination, but over time it got so strong that it definitely wasn't. And then I had these experiences with teachers doing transmissions, and for me, again, at first I didn't notice much. Maybe I felt a bit more present and it felt good, but over time I just had a lot of really strong experiences with it, and transmissions even started happening through me to other people, and nowadays I can do transmissions, and I sometimes do if I feel called, or that intuition arises within me to offer someone that. And most people, or I would say everyone, 99% have been people that are very much are sensitive and noticing these things, who have had a good experience by it. But just being by yourself in your meditation, noticing those things, so where we put our attention helps us in getting more of it. If your focus is, as it was for me, just waking up, I just put my attention on the practice, doing a koan, asking who am I, or staying with the breath, or counting the breath, or do body scanning, or noticing, or whatever it is, the spiritual practice, just being present in the moment. And I mean, if you're into awakening, as the mystical tradition speaks about it, that would be the way to go, and not really care about the subtle realm or subtle energies. I think they can be used as a help, because for me at least, it has been healing to. So for me, over time, I noticed a lot of subtle energies occurring during my meditation. Basically, it was really strong for me, so I even started shaking. I was shaking a couple of years, almost on and off, during my meditation, and it's hard to know what is what. Of course, I thought there's this called TRE, trauma release exercises, which I read about after a while, because I was wondering about it, if it was dysfunctional or some pathological thing. But yeah, so you can have. I think they often go hand in hand. So in my, the way I think about it, at least, is that it was both trauma release exercise, or not trauma release exercise, but trauma releases in where I was shaking, but it was also the raising of whatever you want to call it, kundalini, some kind of spiritual energy too. And I felt it all around me, and I spontaneously also started to do healing on myself with, having my hands outside of me and moving them intuitively, around my body. And yeah, however you want to think about it, if you think that none of these things are really true because you can't measure it, but in the actual experience, they are definitely true. And these traditions speaks about it for sure as if it is a real phenomenon. And it definitely is a real experience, and it can be palpable, it can be very strong, and it can be healing, and it can also be a bit overwhelming again. There's also being intimate with someone. That's the reason I put up the Shiva and Shakti too. They're not just gods, but they are also, Jing and Yang, and that's as well in the Daoism, in the Taoist tradition. And everyone has, different versions of this. So it doesn't need to be a male and a female. And this picture is actually two men. It seems I asked, a mid-journey, a sort of AI to make this picture. I don't know why the AI did two male characters, but Shiva and Shakti is usually considered to be male and female, and that's the yin and yang, and they together are two types of energies which we have in us, both of them. But if we have more of one, it can be, it doesn't really matter, but just hooking up, both figuratively and maybe even literally, with someone, and being into, I mean, this is tantra, of course. So being with those energies with someone, it could be clothes on, even. It doesn't have to be anything rated R. We can still feel it. We don't. There's not even need for touch, but uh, it can be it can be done with touch. And that's just also a way of experiencing these energies. And if you're apt or somewhat apt at meditation or relational practices and doing this with someone, it's yeah, for me also, from my own experience, it's extremely yeah, both, it has been both healing and interesting, because it's yeah, strong and loving and helpful, I think. And it's a wonderful way to connect, because you're in presence together, or at least you should be, or should be. You can do whatever you want, but being in presence like that together over an extended period of time, it doesn't need to be long. It can be, 10, 20 minutes just, but sort of meditating together in a way. That's why it's good to have this meditation foundation, where you don't really engage in. I mean, you can too, but I think for most people who are accustomed to the normal way of doing it, I think slowing it down a lot. I think there's this book that is called, yeah, basically Slow Sex, and that is the point, or you slow it down, just as you do in the relational practices, like circling that I mentioned. We slow down, slow down time. We slow down being. We focus. We are present. We are in love. Yeah, we're in the here and now. Eckart Tolle would be happy. And we go from there, and we stay there. So we don't go into fantasy, even though we want to access the subtle realm, but when we fantasize, we leave the present moment. So we want to be present and not go into fantasies, which is often what we do in those kinds of hookup activities, like that are more in the physical realm, shall we say, in the gross realm. Nothing wrong with it. It can be great. It can be great too. It's just different, and when we go into that, and this more animalistic way of doing it, again, it's perfectly fine. We lose track oftentimes, or at least I do, and I think it's harder to be present with these subtle energies. It's almost like you know waiting for a yeah being sorry, being cognizant and being and wait. We are just like meditation. We don't rush into anything. We stay with the practice, and the practice here is staying with each other, staying present, and noticing, and the energies will do the work for you in a very specific, not specific, but in an interesting way. You're not in charge of it. That's you can just, yeah. At least that's not my experience. At least, it is more that we feel into it. Like what I call this stream, feeling into. So we are feeling into it. We are sensing into it, and we are being present and listening in a way. And then we can't rush it, because if we do that, it just evaporates. It just a thought, just a fantasy, or starting doing something that we normally do in those kinds of activities will or may at least yeah make these subtle energies be less present for you. And it's yeah, so it's very different. It just as meditation is very different from our daily lives, where we are active, we're doing things, we want things, we have goals, we have whatever it is. Same with these relational practices. We sort of follow the, the moment. We are trying to be present, we are trying to be in love, we are being honest, and that's it. We're not really trying to get anywhere. I mean, it could be, we could do it as a way of coaching or whatever, but yeah, that's not, uh, yeah, just being present, just noticing and feeling into it. And during meditation, during relation practices, or even with a partner or partner in crime who is also willing to do that. Yeah, you can do eye gazing too. You don't need to. You can speak what is present. There's a ton of literature on Tantra, but I was surprised how, yeah, I don't want to say easy, because it's yeah, I've done a lot of a lot of practices before this. So I'm not um, yeah, and it wasn't easy, spending 15 years doing meditation, all those things. So I think that's a foundation for it again. So it's but what I noticed, if you have this background in spirituality, I think it will become easier, at least. And if you're listening to this, you're probably somewhat interested in it and may have some experience already. So just trying it out, it's nothing special even. I mean, it's nothing really technical. Just as meditation isn't really technically either. It's really easy in theory. In practice, though, you really need to be present, because just as with meditation, if you lose your focus, if you lose your attention, if you lose yourself, in a way, that is the point. But you're losing the narrative self through subjugating it, or through putting your attention on something else than that. You put your attention on this here and now, the Eckart Tolle's favorite moment. And through that, these things start to appear. You start to be able to notice it, and you may be able to feel more into it. And yeah, I would really recommend it for anyone's interested in it. At least it can be fun extra curriculum, or fun activity outside of just sitting down and doing your meditation. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, and bye.